We want to look at changes in level of capital N and capital K in the basic Solow model without any population or labor growth and without any technological progress. So here we're assuming that capital N increases and you want to see the effects of that in this basic Solow model. So let's say economy begins in steady state. Okay, so economy begins in steady state. Sorry, which we're going to take as point A with our point over there with K is equal to K star. So capital per worker is equal to K star and output per worker is equal to Y star. Okay, so let's mark it here. So this is so we're assuming the economy begins steady state at point A, right? Sorry, my bad. Let's just properly mark this, right? And this is so this is capital per worker, K star in steady state, and okay, sorry, so output per worker is measured from your per worker production function Fk, so this is Y star. So now what we see is there's an inflow of foreign workers in this economy, and inflow of foreign workers, so there's immigration, and inflow of foreign workers is equivalent to an increase in capital in is equivalent to an increase in capital N. So small k, remember how do we define capital per worker is capital K by N goes down, right? So capital N increases, so small k goes down. So K immediately jumps down to a level such as K prime is less than K star, right? So if I make a level such as K prime over here, so K will immediately go down, right? So we started off with the steady state, K is equal to K star, and then capital N goes up, so K is going to go down from K star to a level such as K prime. Now at K prime, let's just label a couple of things. Let's label this as O. Let's label this D. So let me label this as I. No, sorry. So let me just delete this. And now let's see what happens at K prime. So what happens at K prime? Now at K prime, we will notice that investment per worker, which is represented as OI over here at K prime, investment per worker. So investment per worker, which is OI, is greater than depreciation per worker, which is OD over here at the point K prime, right? This is like, right, that's OD, right? Because the idea is this, the depreciation line, the depreciation line is, you can notice, is below the investment curve, at K prime, right? At this point, the depreciation line, you can see is below the investment curve at the point K prime, right? So we can see investment per worker is greater than depreciation per worker at this point, right? So basically, the idea is this, the investment exceeds the delta K. This is change in capital per worker, which is greater than zero, right? Because the difference between investment per worker, depreciation per worker is capital per worker, right? So change in capital per worker, which is just delta K. So delta K, which is investment per worker, OI, investment per worker, OI, minus depreciation per worker, which is OD, is greater than zero, right? Because if you remember, this is our per worker capital accumulation equation. A change in capital per worker is investment per worker minus depreciation per worker. At point K prime, investment per worker is greater than depreciation per worker, right? OI is greater than OD. So the difference between them is change in capital per worker, which is greater than zero. So as change in capital per worker is greater than zero, so thus over time, K increases from K prime, the lower level that we came to when capital N went up, until it returns back, until it returns back to the initial steady state. To the initial steady state K star, where investment per worker is equal to depreciation worker, so change in capital per worker is zero, where investment per worker is equal to depreciation per worker. Right, so what's going to happen is time you're gonna go back. So you started off with K star, then capital went up, you went to K prime. Over time, you're gonna go back to K star. Right, so over here we've seen that just erase this. So we're seeing that the effects of immigration will only be temporary. Let's just write this down because nothing has happened to investment or depreciation here, right? So you just started off with K star, then capital went up, so immediately jump to K prime, and over time you come back to K star because at K prime, investment per worker exceeds depreciation per worker. So as a result of this change in capital per worker is positive, which will cause K to go back to its initial steady state where investment per worker is depreciation per worker, so change in capital per worker is zero. So the effects of immigration will only be temporary, right? The foreign workers coming in, immigration, the increase in N. And over here, we're obviously assuming that N increases, but growth rate is not changing. Will only be temporary. There's no change. It's still zero because this is like the basic Solow model. Because nothing happened to investment. Nothing happened to investment or depreciation, right?